Hi, everybody.
Hello, Jim.
Hello, Jim.
Dale. I don't know if he was here last week. Cliff, as soon as you joined, all of a sudden, like, we got Dale, we got some new people joining. Aiden.
So I noticed that the title is Grandmaster Blunders.
Correct.
First, I thought that was an oxymoron.
You're not a grandmaster?
I have the blunders part down pat.
He's a razzle dazzle.
Yeah, me too. I sometimes think I know it's over my head. I'm just amazed at how much some people know.
This topic should be a fun one, so yeah. So yes, I'm sure, Ken, you have some great examples prepared, I'm sure.
You don't know that.
You and I, we didn't compare which examples we have, so I got like several extra ones, so in case you have some of those that I have, I still have fun.
Okay, well, I only picked like 4. So.
Oh, okay.
And after
there's some very famous ones.
After last week where I was worried about it and you guys said not to worry about it, I didn't worry about it.
So are you going to include game 1 of the 1972 championship match?
Well, I'll never forget it.
About that, because I wouldn't call that a blunder, actually. I don't know if Lev would.
Some grandmasters have a different definition of blunder. Like, I was playing a game against Alexander Fishbein once, and he was slightly better in the opening, but he made a small mistake that made it equal. And after the game, he was like, "Oh, I made such a blunder in the opening." So it depends who you talk to, but
yeah, and
like,
Jim, supposedly there was a way to draw that anyway after his mistake.
Fishers in 1972?
Yeah, there was a way to supposedly.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, Ken, I mean, do you want to share your screen? And I think
share my screen.
We're ready to get started, I think.
Share my screen.
And just a reminder for everybody that keep yourself muted, and when you want to speak, just hold the space bar down, and that'll reduce a lot of noise.
Yeah, thanks Mike.
Yep.
Okay, actually, before we start anything, Ron is still planning on opening up for camps at the end of this month, and the picnic is planned for July 8th. Actually, you can ask Cliff a lot about that because we heard quite a bit about it on Thursday with Ron going back and forth about getting the picnic pavilion and allowing enough people in. But for those of you who are interested in going to the Chess Center picnic, that is planned to be on for July 8th.
When are the Saturday tournaments going to start back up again?
Actually, we didn't talk really about that.
Okay, all right.
So I would assume the week of the Community Chess Club opening up.
Okay, so the Community Chess Club is going to be open. When's the first day that we're going to have another meeting for the Community Chess Club? What do you guys think?
Yeah, it was the first, right, Mike?
Yep. July 1st,
okay.
TJ.
All right, okay.
Is that going to be a Zoom opening?
Oh, that's a good point, David. That's actually going to be an in-person at the Chess Center opening. So
okay, good, great.
Yep. So whoever feels comfortable, and we'll want everybody to wear masks and
yes,
stuff like that.
Okay.
What should be interesting for the games to see how people react after no oxygen for a couple hours.
Yeah. Hopefully the air conditioning works, because otherwise it will be really bad.
Yeah, that wasn't a reason I had for blunders today in today's topic, but
air conditioning.
Yeah, lack of oxygen was not one of my choices.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what is a blunder? I guess before I start sharing the screen, we should mention what a blunder is.
When somebody loses their queen.
Giving away your queen.
Yeah.
Okay. I actually
that's a blunder for me.
Failing to realize that it's mate in 1 and I'm the one getting mated and not reacting.
I almost included one of those. Actually, that's happened a couple times with good players. Like, was it Kramnik?
Didn't Manning let some guy mate him in one? John Manning?
Or it's when someone plays a move, they say it's checkmate, and then you agree with them, and you're like, oh.
That's happened before in the league with a
That's
1700
happened
player.
I have been checkmated before and tried to make another move.
Okay, well, we're gonna say a blunder is something that negatively affects the game. I'm not gonna say if you're already losing and you give away a piece, that's a blunder. That's already past it, I think, if you're already lost. But let's say you're winning the game and you give away a piece and now you're losing. That would be a blunder. Or if you're drawn and you give away the piece, now you're losing, that's a blunder. Or if you're winning and you give away a draw, that would be a blunder. All right. There's cases of people resigning early. I didn't include any of those. Where somebody resigned a position they're winning. Trust me, it's a terrible feeling. I hope you don't ever have that happen to you. It's happened to me, but hopefully that won't be something that goes on with you at all. All right, so what are some reasons we blunder? Anybody have reasons we would make a mistake?
Chess blindness.
All right. We truly are clueless about what's going on.
Not understanding the position.
Okay, I couldn't hear that, Marcelo.
Oh, sorry. Not understanding the position.
All right, a lack of knowledge about the position. That certainly could happen in a lot of openings and endings. I'm missing what probably our most common reason for blunders.
Probably incorrect calculation.
Time.
Yep, pressure by time.
Okay, who said that? Did I hear somebody say time?
Yeah, that was me.
Okay, that sounds like that would be right. Because, yeah, the clock is a major part of the chess game, right? And if you are in, like, time travel and the other person is not, you're more liable to make a blunder. Now, that doesn't guarantee you. And other people make the mistake sometimes of, hey, look, Ken's really low on the clock. I think I'm going to try to blitz him off the board. And then they make the mistake. We're not going to look at those. But, all right, let me see if I got some examples of that one. Oh, I know I do have one. Another reason for blunder. Oh, this happens a lot on Saturdays. At the end of a game especially. Probably why somebody here named Jim won a game against John once. Because people get tired.
Yeah, by the way, that's the only game I've ever won against John Manning.
Well, yeah, but it was posterized. I went out to schools and showed it. John doesn't know that yet, though, Jim, so keep that quiet. But yes, I have the position and showed it. But yeah, we get tired at the end of the game. All right, so we're liable to make some mistakes. Sometimes we take our opponent too lightly. All right. In fact, there was a TV show on in the late 70s or early 80s. Maybe Cliff could help me out with this. I don't know if it was the Chess Masters or something like that, but there was a program where players were kind of thinking out loud into the camera of what was going on. And after every move, I remember watching one with Walter Brown. Walter Brown just assumed every move his opponent made was a bad move. And it didn't matter if he's playing like Nigel Short or Joel Benjamin. They were all bad moves according to Walter Brown, at least at first, because he really didn't have a lot of faith in his opponents. But, all right, so let's take a look at a couple here. Hopefully I can find my screen. Let's see if I share screen here and I go, oh, that's not the one I want. Okay, hang on a minute. Now I've got to get to, okay, so we want Reshevsky's.
I didn't try. Ken?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to also perhaps add, just like you know, a source of a blunder could be to underestimate my opponent. Another source of a blunder could be the fear by being intimidated by my opponent.
Oh, yeah, certainly. You trust your opponent sometimes, right? All right, so let's go with this one. Okay, you guys have probably heard of this person named Reshevsky. He was a U.S. champion a few times, one of the best players for decades that we had around. And anyway, it's an interzonal tournament. So that for those of you who have not heard of it, interzonal, that's the tournament where they decided who would get to play in the candidates matches to become world champions back in the 80s and even the 90s. All right, in this case, he's playing a grandmaster from the Soviet Union named Vladimir Savan. And after the game, David Bronstein called this the blunder of 5 centuries. Now, truthfully, I don't know what blunder he's talking about that would have been before pawns started moving 2 squares. I'm not much up on the chess history that way. All right, but okay, so anyway, in this game, it's White's move, and he starts off with rook g8, which sounds pretty good. Chasing the king around. And Black really didn't like the idea, although he probably should have done this, of king to f6. Because he said, well, look, or he said to himself, if the king goes to f6, the queen walks into f4 with a check, and Black has to block with the bishop, and White just wins the bishop with a pawn. Pawn takes, and White is cleaning up here. All right, so after this, though, Black moved the king to h7, which is a blunder. All right, this is not the blunder that gets talked about, though, but this is a blunder because it allows White to make a bigger blunder. Truthfully, White should be able to get checkmate here. All right, White's first move says, look, I'm going to play queen takes f7, and that'll be the end of the game. All right, and Black doesn't have a good way to stop this, but he tries to make an airspace. And White says, look, here we come. Queen takes f7 looks pretty serious. Your king is just going to walk up the board. All right, and now we run into some sort of time trouble here. The time trouble, or the time for this game, was you had to make 40 moves to make time control. And unfortunately, even though Black was not able to stop the checkmates here, unfortunately White did. White played the one that somebody was talking about with queen, whoops. White played queen takes g6 and forgot all about the bishop on b1. That, to me, would fall under the category of time management as being the problem here. Right? How could you make a mistake like that? I realize a bishop walking diagonally backwards is tough to see, but not that hard in this case. In fact, though, White could have given checkmate here in a few moves. Anybody have an idea? Oh, actually, I guess I got it printed up here, how we would do that. All right, if White says, look, we'll start chasing the king with the pawn instead, the Black has a few choices to get out of check. They could take with the king or take with the bishop. Well, let's say taking with the bishop is pretty bad, because now we block the king's own escape square and the rook can play checkmate, or the queen can play checkmate, either one. All right, so let's say the king were to walk and take it. White says, here comes another pawn. And the whole idea is we want to control g5. If the king walks back to h6, now our rook does play the checkmate. And if the king takes the pawn, now our queen's going to control g5 by walking to f4 and play checkmate. Right, so that was Mr. Reshevsky, who, yeah, one of the best players in U.S. history. but even he made a mistake like this, which, yeah, not a very happy ending for him. So instead of him winning, he lost his queen and resigned instantly back from this position. As soon as he played it, and evidently guys were running into the press room saying, "Oh my gosh, Reshevsky made a blunder. Instead of playing checkmate, he sacrificed, or he gave away his queen." And like I said, David Bronstein, who was a world champion contender, world championship contender, called it the blunder of 5 centuries. Okay, but that one was mainly caused by time pressure. All right, so not a pleasant blunder, but certainly one that most of us here could understand. All right, now let me stop sharing this one and see if I can get to a different one.
Ken?
Yeah.
How much time left he had when he made that?
As far as I know, he only had a minute or so. But
Thanks.
enough time for him, certainly. I mean, if I ever imagined a game with Lev where that would happen, he would play that in negative time. He would have played G5.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, so let me see if I can get to my...
So they probably didn't have that.
There was no increment.
No increment, okay.
Or time delay, right? Neither one of those. I'm glad you mentioned that. Because, yeah, that does make time blunders a little bit less common now than they used to be. But they still certainly happen, as anybody who comes to our Saturday tournaments can attest to. Or Wednesday, we see some blunders, but probably not as many as we see on Saturday, since the Wednesday tournament is a little bit longer. All right, so let's go to the next one here. And the next one happened, oh, come on, share screen. The next one happened to the same player, but for a different reason. All right, you'll notice this is move 91, okay? And Black is certainly crushing in this position where he's got those 3 extra pawns, but queen endings are not notoriously easy. I mean, you have to avoid all the checks. And, all right, well, in this case, yeah, let's say if we had played this the right way, Black would have played probably this check. This was the easiest win I could find anyway, with the help of the computer. It wasn't, I mean, it's all still winning, but this was the easiest, shortest way the computer had to go after it. Okay. Now, this is a kind of ending where in queen endings, many of you might know that the king is free to walk around. He's not worried about getting checkmated by other pieces. So, like, all Black has to do is make sure there's no perpetual here, really. Watch out for stalemate, I suppose. And now the king says, okay, I'm going to be able to come out and capture some pawns. Well, White's only pawn maybe, or possibly help with checkmate, or help promote one of my pawns. All right, so, and if I just fast forward it a bit, we can see the Black king captured the pawn and he's on his way to helping out. And there's really nothing White can do about that. However, instead of playing queen g1, Black played pawn g4, which causes a major problem here. What is White going to play next? Any ideas from the panel?
I think you kind of showed it earlier, but queen f2 for White is really a killer.
Yeah, why is that, TJ?
Because Black can't take the queen because it's stalemate, and can't move it back to b6 where it'd be protected because the pawn on a5 is attacking it, that square.
Right, and yeah, I didn't want to show it earlier, but evidently ChessBase wanted to show it earlier because it had the arrows pointing in the position that I didn't have anything to do with. But yeah, so queen f2. And this is the kind of move that might make me fall off my chair if I'm playing a game. So if you hear a thud, you guys might know that somebody did this to me. Like, oh, yeah, okay. Because I have trouble finding this kind of move over the board. But yeah, if Black were to capture, as TJ mentioned, it's stalemate. And if black doesn't want to capture, they're going to lose. So at this point, the game is just a draw. And I mean, I didn't mean to pick on Mr. Reshevsky when we started here, but I know that he's had a couple of major ones. In fact, there's more of them because he liked to enter time problems so much. Also, if you're on move 91 in the game, you tend to kind of do some weird things. It's for any of you who played in the Marchand, you might have noticed that in the third round of the Marchand, you tend to do some pretty silly things too. And I had one event where I was playing against a master from Buffalo one time, and he laughed after every single move that I made, which, you know, that's not really a great feeling to have a master laugh at your move every time, but he was a little punchy too at that point. So that kind of stuff happens when you get tired. You make some moves that, well, they look pretty good at the time, but in the light of day, they're terrible. Okay, so yeah, here's the one where, yeah, he just was tired in the game and allowed this to happen, and now it's a draw. And this is from a U.S. Championship match. I really had to find out, do some research about when this was played because I didn't have it in my database. But yeah, so there's another one. All right, now let me see if I can get the third one to appear on my screen. Come on, that's not right. Okay, now in this one, I made, oh, see, now the computer's showing this again. Why is it doing that? All right, share screen, whoops. Share screen on this one. Okay, now for any of you who've heard of the name Boris Ivkov, he's a grandmaster from Yugoslavia. And actually, for most of his career, when he was playing the best, he was considered the second strongest player from Yugoslavia. There was this guy named David Gligoric who was above him. But, you know, that's not bad to be the second strongest player in your country. Also, Ivkov was the first world junior champion. So they had a tournament of players under 21. He ended up winning that. All right. Now, in this tournament, this was definitely going to be the highlight of his career. He's already, well, you could read here. He's already beaten some pretty good players. In fact, he'd beaten Fischer in this event, and he'd beaten Vasily Smyslov in this event. Okay, and there's top players in this, like David Bronstein, who I mentioned before. In fact, you can see some other names here. All right, Ivkov is a point ahead of the field at this point with 2 rounds to go. And he's playing a guy named Garcia, who was only invited because he's from Cuba and they needed to fill up the field at this tournament. Okay, Mr. Ivkov is way ahead here. You can see he's got an extra exchange and some pawns. And at this point, all black really has to do is figure out, okay, how could I lose? And maybe I can avoid that. All right, now, I guess I'm going to ask people, what would you play and why here? So it's black's move. What would you play and why here? Uh-oh. My sound is not working now. Or
I can hear you fine, Ken.
What, Jim?
I hear you just fine.
Okay, no, I couldn't hear you. I've got one ear that isn't working right now, which is why I have earphones on, so I have my other ear that can hear everything. But anybody have any ideas here for black about what to play, or maybe what black should be worried about? Maybe not worried is the wrong term, but
Maybe no escape square.
I would
What's-
begin.
What,
I
Mike?
would,
No escape square.
All right, so maybe back rank, although he does have a little bit of an escape square if the queen leaves g7. Actually, this was a different kind of blunder. This one is probably due to overconfidence. All right, the guy's probably flying higher than a kite here after beating a couple of really tough grandmasters and a former world champion. And then he's way ahead in material in this game, and he's winning the whole tournament, probably thinking, gosh, if I win this game, I'm clinching first place. At least a tie for first place. Okay, we had talked about holes the previous week, and the only problem he really has is the dark squared complex by the king. So like f6, g7, h6, that kind of thing.
Maybe he could play queen to b6, and then maybe queen to, with the idea of maybe queen to d8, or maybe moving the knight some or how and trying to trade the queens off or something.
Okay, so yeah, it'd be queen to b6 makes a lot of sense to try and get to trade queens. Queen b6, queen d8 makes a whole lot of sense there. The only thing that we really have to worry about, though, is the white queen getting next to the king to force checkmate. So if the knight were to leave g7, say, and the bishop invades on h6, right?
Yeah.
That would be a big problem. Or possibly h8. Okay, so yeah, the queen moving is pretty good. Moving the rook is a great idea. We could do with the rook what TJ wanted to do with the queen. Have the rook come out and chase the queen away on b6 maybe. But instead, black played here. Oops. And you can see that the chess base wants to show this immediately. They have an arrow. Probably klaxons would go off if I had the sound for this or something. That, yeah, white's going to play, make a battery. Let's go after those dark squares. Excuse me. And, uh-oh, how is checkmate going to be stopped? Well, black could play queen takes f1 check. Maybe that buys one move, but that's about it. We could try knight d4 and buy a move that way too. That's about it. That doesn't really do anything. And a defeat like this for Mr. Ivkov was so disheartening. He basically didn't do well in his next game and his next tournament even. So it's a big thing. If you make a blunder, that you probably have to put it behind you. And I know that's easier said than done. But you don't want to just dwell over, oh my gosh, what could have been or what possessed me to do that. Get it out of your mind. Okay, don't dwell on it too much. But yeah, so this guy actually lost his next game and ended up finishing tied for second through fourth in the tournament, where he had a chance to just win it here. Smyslov, I think, ended up winning the tournament. And yeah, and then in this guy's next tournament, I think he was 7th out of 8 players. So yeah, it's often very hard to recollect yourself after having a blunder like this, but we all need to try doing that. Right. But yeah, so there's another reason we have a blunder is we're overconfident in our position. And it's kind of easy to see why. In fact, sometimes when I'm playing at the chess center, I think, gosh, why isn't my opponent just resigning? Well, there's usually a reason they're not resigning. They're expecting me to screw up somehow. All right, so yes, if I'm way ahead and I'm a player who screwed up before, yeah, they could see me doing that. All right, so let's see here. I'm gonna stop this one and go on to the next one.
One time, poor Henry, me and him had like a tactical battle in like the CCCR championship, and he won like a queen or something. He was up like a queen and a knight or something, and I think I had like a rook and a pawn or something left, and then he like blundered mate and won by me promoting with with a queen with checkmate.
I remember that. I watched it. He promoted a pawn or something,
Oh,
right?
that's gotta be the worst. Yeah. But anyway, that just reminded me of that.
Right. I guess I'm going to have to just go with that. Okay, so back to screen sharing.
I think Black found the worst move on the board in that example, right, Ken?
Yeah,
Is D3 the worst move?
it was the worst move. It's pretty tough to find the worst move, but he found it. All right, so now in this one, how do I, oops.
Are you trying to get the notation on?
Yeah,
Yeah, go to view, and then on the far left, notation.
oh, and I have to check the box here, okay. All right, now this one's a more recent one. And actually, maybe some of you remember reading about it, or if you were at the Chess Center on one of the Saturdays, I know Doug Spencer came in and talked about this game for a while with people. All right, this is Magnus Carlsen in the Tata Steel tournament. And for those of you who don't know what the Tata Steel tournament is, it's like a tennis major for chess. So it's one of the biggest tournaments each year. That's the one they used to call Weekend Z, I think. And every year, the people come to this tournament. And in fact, Gwion Jones, the previous year, had been in a section below this one. He had won that section, I think, and got elevated to the top section. They usually have 3 sections in this tournament. And if you win your section, or do really well in it, usually you're able to go up a section for the next year, depending on who accepts the invitations or not. All right, so anyway, Magnus has castled queenside. Jones from England has castled kingside here. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of crazy stuff going on this board. Now, White has got a couple moves here, but he played G4. With the idea of, yeah, you know, we castle queenside, you castle kingside, I'm going to shove my pawns down your throat, see how this works. However, that's Magnus Carlsen making a blunder. And after the game, people asked him if it was a sacrifice or a blunder, and he said, no, it was just a blunder. I was not any cool trick I was trying or anything like that. It was just a mistake. So what is wrong with pawn G4 here?
F4.
Why?
Because the bishop has to move and you lose the knight.
Right. So a grandmaster's winning a whole piece here, right? So after F4, in fact, yeah, when I put this on the computer said G4 was not even one of the top choices at all here. There were only a couple. And now the queen's either going to get the knight or the pawn's going to take the bishop, or we can just capture the bishop with something else. But yeah, it's a whole piece that Magnus is losing. However, you might notice that in the annotations here, I've got 1 - 0. Magnus still ended up winning this game.
Was he able to drum something up with the attack with the opposite side's castling somehow or something?
No, he was just able to play better than his opponent for the rest of the game. In fact, other people said, wow, it was like he played as a chess computer. And it wasn't because of his attack on one side of the board or anything. He just played precisely every move. Like he was so mad at himself that he was going to play good chess. I know sometimes when I make a blunder, I don't resign right away because I want to punish myself to keep playing at the board and keep making it so everybody can see how bad I look. I'd say, oh, wow, Ken, you don't get to just resign. You have to keep playing. Once in a while, I guess I might be able to find my way to something that's close to playable, but usually that's not going to happen. And especially if I blundered a piece against the Grandmaster. But Magnus is a little better than us. And he was able to win the game a long ways later. So not all blunders are fatal. And you certainly don't need to resign, as we've seen throughout this. But Yeah, what would be the cause of this blunder, though? Why would he have done that? Is it because he didn't understand the position?
You know, something else.
Oh, go ahead, TJ.
It occurred to me just now that maybe he thought he could trap the queen by playing bishop f2, and if the knight gets taken, you play bishop h4, and he missed somehow that the queen can go back to h6 or something, maybe? I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, that's at least somewhat of a possibility for him, because my thought was he's thinking, you know, I can basically win no matter what I'm doing here. I was watching a video with Nakamura. He was annotating a speed chess game or saying something and saying, you know, I'm definitely winning here. It's much better. And then all of a sudden he was getting checkmated. Because sometimes we just think that, yeah, our position's good. We can do almost whatever we want. And he wants to throw pawns at his opponent. But yeah, TJ, maybe you've got it. Maybe he was imagining this bishop getting to h4 to try and trap the queen somehow, but it's not going to do it. Oh, oops. So, yeah, anyway, how do we avoid these things? Well, it used to be that players would be able to write on their score sheets before the move. FIDE got rid of that in, what, the 80s or 90s, I think, or maybe even the early 2000s. FIDE said you can't write the move before you play it now. And the USCF started going with that, although not every tournament really does that, but they are frowning on people writing down the moves beforehand. Part of that is because of the software. You might see somebody has a chess software they're taking notation with, and they'd get to see the position if they actually tried to input it first before making the move, and that would be an unfair advantage. So USCF has gone against that, but how else can we try to avoid it? Well, I guess you have to ask yourself some questions just before making the move, like, does my opponent have any forcing moves that I have to worry about, like a check or a capture or even a threat? Like this move here would be certainly considered two threats, right? Threatening the knight and the bishop. But other than that, I mean, we're all going to make blunders. It's just he who makes the fewest blunders is going to be the one that becomes master. You've made blunders since you became master, right, Lev? That still happened once in a while.
More than I can count.
More than you can count. That means you don't have a very high threshold of counting.
No, I've hung my fair share of pieces even since becoming a master.
Okay, well, you just don't let us see it.
I don't show those games.
All right. Well, anyway, any questions anybody has here?
Yeah, Ken, it looks like it says, what is a better move that he might have played? I was thinking it could be perhaps queen to h4, and then perhaps somewhere followed with bishop to c5.
All right. Well, let's go with queen h4 for a minute. Okay, I'll put that out here. If queen h4, you're threatening checkmate, right? You're guarding your knight.
Yeah, the black's already made a move though, right? Didn't you have the pawn forward?
No, weighted plate. Oh, you're saying in the first place. You're saying after g4.
No. I'm saying the position that you had the blunder. That was black's move. White's move now, queen h4.
Queen h4. Okay.
You know, threatening
something. Let's call this a new variation. Okay.
H6.
What's the problem with this?
Somebody else said h6.
Yeah, your knight's pinned to your queen, right? So what are we doing about that? The knight doesn't have a place to go to defend the queen, at the very least. So that's going to be a major issue here for white.
Yeah, good point.
I thought you meant that in the first place you were going to try queen h4. So instead of playing the g4 in the first place, I thought you were going to try it.
Oh. Well, I don't know, perhaps.
But it runs into the same problem.
Yeah.
You've still pinned your knight to the queen. and h6 is going to come and be rather annoying. Of course, if he lost a piece and still won, maybe he could do it anyway. But yeah, I should mention too that losing a piece against a grandmaster, you're probably not coming back unless your name is Magnus. All right. So, and we don't have any Magnuses who play at the CCCR. So yeah, try to avoid that because we're just not as good as he is. He could lose. Somebody said he could lose in the middle game and be lost in the opening, losing in the middle game and win the ending still, because he's just that much better than everybody right now.
All right. So what would have been a better move?
Good. Yeah. Anybody have an idea? What is a better move? I guess I'm putting that up on the commentary sheet and I forgot to ask.
Better move is that rook into knight. He captures it and then.
You want this?
No, it doesn't work. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to help us.
No, it doesn't work. It was when he captured the knight with his queen, then it can be made.
Okay, actually, what was the whole problem that White has in this position after the move that was played? Remember, TJ was playing f4 so the queen could chase the knight and the pawn could chase the bishop?
Yeah, it cuts the coordination between the two white pieces.
Yeah, so why don't we take care of that?
Yeah, perhaps h4.
Right, h4 is the best move on the board here.
Yeah.
It's not even close. h4 is helping us with our possible pawn storm for later. It takes care of the knight. I guess if we really want to, we could get the knight to h3 later on. And then not have it blocking that pawn that blocks in the rook. So yeah, h4 is definitely the right move here. And the computer evaluated this as like White's up 2/3 of a pawn after h4. So that was definitely the shot here for White to have played. After the move that White played, the computer evaluated it as Black being up 2.7 or so. All right, I'm going to stop sharing then and turn it back over to Lev. All right, and I'll mute myself.
All right, thanks, Ken. Why don't we, Jim, I think we should take a 5-minute break. What do you think?
Excellent suggestion.
Is that what you were about to ask?
I was going to ask that. Thanks.
You can read your mind.
Yeah, well, they do say that transitions are important, and typically a 5-minute break within about an hour time frame, it allows people to be most effective. So I agree for learning.
Actually, on the schedule we have 10 minutes, but we've never done a 10-minute break. So we're not very good at following the schedule.
Yeah, I think 5 is good. See you in 5. Thanks.
So we'll pick back up around 2:50.
I remember, I think there was a game between Bronstein and Botvinnik in their World Championship, where Botvinnik was up like a rook, Bronstein blundered a rook with a tactic with a pawn on b7 that took a rook in the corner and promoted or something. And then, but then it went on to be a draw.
Actually, I don't know that game. Ken, do you know that game?
Hold on.
I don't know that one either.
Which game was it in their match?
I'm gonna look it up right now. I can't remember.
Hello, everyone.
So for everybody who's just joined us, It's
Yeah.
great to have you. And just to remind you that if I mute you, it just means that we want you to use the space bar to speak so that we don't get background noise. So feel free to speak. You just press the space bar.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Sure. I feel like the referee.
Doing good.
Wasn't there a chess song with that, where the arbiter? You know, that's you, Mike. You're the arbiter. If anybody saw the chess musical.
Oh, I didn't see. But that sounds better, arbiter, than referee. I never been called like, okay, get the referee into the chess, room. We got a problem. Arbiter sounds better. So has anybody, till we get started, has anybody played any online tournaments?
Yeah, I played a one for high school seniors.
Oh.
And I did absolutely awful in it. I was sort of at the bottom of the 1800 plus section. And also my rapid isn't that good. It was 7 rounds, and I think I lost 6 of the games, and then one game I got a bye because there was an odd number of players.
Okay.
I think people like David Brodsky was there, Jennifer Yu, other like famous young grandmasters.
Oh, that's
So
great.
that was interesting, but I didn't get to play against any of them. So
Okay.
Hey, Lev, before you get started, I just wanted to ask a quick question.
Sure, go ahead.
So, we're all familiar with the idea that that a player can under promote, rather than quote have to promote to a queen or something.
It's usually legal.
Yeah. So my question is, let's say somebody already has the knights, both of their knights that are on the board, right? Can they under promote to a third knight?
That's a tough one, Jim. Yeah, so, what you would have to do there, you have to go find a piece of paper and draw out a picture of a knight so that you can put it on the board. But no, usually you just take a third knight from...
Oh, so it's not a problem.
Oh, yeah, you can have as many knights as you want, Jim.
Okay, thanks.
You have as many queens, as many bishops, as many rooks as you want also.
All right, sounds good to me.
Although if you have more than 10 knights on the board, you're probably doing something wrong. You can't have more than 10.
If it's B-Day, don't turn your rook upside down as a knight, Jim.
Hey, I just thought, since we're speaking of knights, Lev, do you want to perhaps, before we finish up here, just demonstrate the Knights Tour for us?
Knights Tour?
The Knights Tour?
We'll leave that up to the referee.
Okay.
The referee can decide. All right, so I think we're about ready to get started here. Once again, thanks everybody for joining us. This will probably be either our last or second to last one of these, but we have a fun topic today that hopefully will make some of you laugh. So, all right, I'm going to start sharing my screen. All right. And everyone can hear me okay, and everyone can see my board here, right? Mike, can you confirm that? Or somebody?
Yes.
All right. Good.
You're fine.
So yeah. So okay. The theme today is Grandmaster Blunders, and I think Ken got into some of this in his examples, but also what I want to kind of go through is what can cause a Grandmaster to make a blunder. So all of these examples that we're going to be looking at are where either somebody took a totally equal position and lost in one move, or they were winning and they made a blunder and lost, or they're winning, they made a blunder and drew, or something along those lines, where it totally changes the outcome of the game based on one move. So this example I think is kind of funny because it's actually, I think, one of the more common reasons for players, especially strong players, making a blunder is that they don't really think it's possible for things to go wrong very quickly. So they don't have any sense of danger. And in this position, it's black to play. And this position is about equal. I mean, white has some nice rooks doubled up on the g file, and maybe we'll try to play something like g5. But, you know, for the moment, black's pieces are doing pretty well. They're close enough to the king side, and black should be able to defend. So, okay, here, I mean, black can make pretty much any move. You can move the queen somewhere, you can move the bishop somewhere, you can move the rook somewhere, you know, you can push a pawn here even. All those moves are fine. However, black instead tried to be a little bit more aggressive. He played queen d4. And all right, well, I mean, maybe he has some idea of trying to do something weird with the queen on c3. I'm not exactly sure what he's going for. But this actually, like, loses on the spot. And, all right, Nimzovich, so, okay, hopefully some of you have heard of him. He was, well, okay. He wasn't quite at his peak at this time, so this was played in, like, 1911, so he was in his peak maybe a decade after this, in the 1920s was sort of his peak. But, okay, here, he found a way to punish this. So what do you guys think? And I'll give you a hint. The queen on d4 is really, really bad. Bad place for the queen.
Maybe knight d5.
Knight where did you say?
Knight d5.
Yeah, knight d5. That's what Nimzovich played. Okay. Now actually, yeah, the queen surprisingly has no squares to go to. And actually, there's just nothing black can do about this threat of c3. After c3, the queen simply has nowhere to go. You know, the rooks, they cover all these squares. That pawn is protected. And there's literally nothing you can do. So if you do nothing, then c3 happens next move. Leonhard kind of got a little desperate. He played with takes d5. But, okay, this is kind of funny.
Hey, Lev, before you go on,
yeah,
go back to the knight to, what is it, d5?
Yeah, here?
Yeah, it's almost as if the queen is in a bit of a cage.
Well, yeah, I would say the queen is in a cage, not a bit of a cage. The queen is in a cage. It's just, you know, you stop the queen from running away here. And, yeah, so like I was saying, rook takes d5 is a little bit desperate, because maybe at least if you take the rook, the queen will be able to escape somewhere. Or if you take the rook this way, at least the queen has one of these squares. But no, actually, c3 is much stronger here. It doesn't matter that you took the knight; the queen is still blocked. And yeah, he played queen takes d3, hoping once again for rook takes, and rook takes. When at least black has a rook and bishop for the queen, so it's not resignable, but white's probably still better. But actually, Nimzovich played much stronger. He just took the rook. And now, yeah, now it's just over. Your queen is attacked, and if you save your queen, you lose the bishop. And white is just up a rook. So, I mean, yeah, there's nothing black can do here. I think he resigned like a few moves later. So, okay, he took a pawn. He realized he was down a rook here, and he was like, all right, that's enough. So, yeah, I mean, it's a difficult question to sometimes ask. You know, every blunder can be a little bit different, but most of the time a blunder like this happens because, you know, the player just has no sense of danger. They think, you know, I'm sure Leonhard wasn't really worried about his position because this attack, you know, it's not super serious right now. The queen is kind of far away. You know, if you play g5, there's usually going to be some way to break with f5 and you get counterplay. So, you know, black doesn't have a lot to be worried about here. So, you know, when you're not worried, you kind of think, oh, I can make any move. And almost any move is good for black except for this one. So that, you know, sometimes it might just be bad luck. You pick a move that just happens to be terrible. But yeah, nowadays, I think most grandmasters, they would be a little bit skeptical of putting their queen just in the center like that without thinking. Because, okay, this was in 1911, so like, we hadn't really been playing chess for that long at that point. But here, okay, there's definitely been more examples where grandmasters have done something like this. And once we see enough of that happening, then it kind of becomes a pattern to remember. So, yeah.
Now, do you have any of this position before that, or any of this game before this position?
So, well, I didn't include any of the moves before.
Because I knew black was heading for queen d4 for a couple of moves.
Yeah, the queen was over here a couple of moves ago, and he just played queen c6 and queen d6.
Right, and so white, from what I recall of this game, white set up their rooks and their queens so they could trap it in that square before it went there.
Yeah, so that's pretty sneaky. So, I think he played like rook g3 and then rook g2 for the last couple moves. But yeah, I mean, once again, I'm not really sure what the queen is doing on d4. It's a nice central square, but she's not really attacking anything. But yeah, sometimes, if you can set a trap like that, if you kind of think your opponent is heading for a plan that's bad, then yeah, don't stop them. Just let them make it and fall into the trap. Sorry, that's a funny example that I like to show. And unless anybody has any specific questions to this one, I think I'll move on to the next position.
Yeah, I have one quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you first put the position up, the two candidate moves that I looked at was, queen to f, or knight to f5 or knight to d5. So
after this?
Yeah, after that. So knight to d5, obviously, that's a killer. But knight to f5 isn't as strong now.
You play knight to f5, I can take it, and then my queen will run away.
Yeah.
Okay, you can open the g file, but I really only have one weakness here, and I can defend it pretty easily.
Yeah.
So this is just a equal position.
But if you were to follow that up with, say, h5, h6 for white.
You play h5?
Yeah. And then,
yeah, actually, I mean, sometimes I think black should still be able to defend like this. I mean, this looks a little bit scary, but just for the sake of argument, as long as I cover any sack here and any sack here, then, like, with only one weakness like this, especially since there's no minor pieces on the board, that's also a big deal. If there were minor pieces on the board, and you can imagine like a knight could be here and could sacrifice.
yeah. What if you follow that up with queen to, say, g1?
Then just defend it, right? I'm just gonna play like queen f8.
Yeah, but if you did that, couldn't you just go rook takes h6 and then follow that up?
I don't think this works, though.
Doesn't?
Well, what are you gonna do? You need your queen to be here. You're not threatening that yet.
Yeah, good point.
I saw rook takes h6. Don't worry. You didn't surprise me.
All right, thanks.
I was being like Nimzovich, setting up my own little trap waiting for this. But yeah, anyway. But Jim, no, if there were like even a pair of minor pieces on the board, like if white had a knight or something that could help out, that would make a huge difference. It's just the fact that all the minors have been traded that makes this position, with only one target here, it should be defensible for black. So, all right. Yeah, let's go on to the next one. So this is actually, since I saw, Nimzovich was on the right end of a blunder in this game. So actually my next example, to make things fair, now Nimzovich is going to be on the wrong end of a blunder. So, okay, Nimzovich is playing white here. I'm actually going to flip the board. So we can look at this from Tarash's point of view. And okay, this endgame is pretty much equal. I mean, if anybody is better, maybe white is a little bit better because this king is pretty active and black's pawns are kind of split. This a pawn isn't really going anywhere. This rook is stopping it. And, maybe white has some plan to play like g4 and g5. So, okay, white can still do some things. And all right, Tarash plays rook to b8, threatening checkmate. And okay, if you're thinking that Nimzovich blundered checkmate, that is not the blunder he made in this game. He did not allow rook h8 checkmate. But actually, you have a choice now. You can play king h7, or you can play king h5. One of those loses immediately, like loses by force, and the other one, well, the game is still about equal. So before I show the move, what do you guys think?
King H5, I think, is a little worse
Why is it a little worse?
because of Rook B5.
All right, so what? Rook b5.
I think the A pawn's too fast.
So yeah, if I trade rooks, then I can't catch your pawn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is actually what happened. King h5. That's a blunder. But okay, we have to find out why it's a blunder first. Rook b5. So okay, if I trade rooks, then I won't be able to stop your pawn. So if we look at pawn square like this, I need to be able to get inside the pawn square right now, but I can't do that. But I have another move. I can play king g4. Black is actually still winning in this endgame, and Tarish found the way to win. And it's an idea that Nimzovich like just totally forgot about in this position. But I wouldn't say it's terribly obvious. That's your end games here. What's the most forcing thing Black can play?
What about king e6 for black?
King e6 is a nice idea. Yeah, sometimes a move like this works if like the rook is pinned and can't get out of the trade. But here, no, I wouldn't trade. I would just.
Oh well, yeah, you're right. I forgot that it wasn't pinned anymore. I'm sorry. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, sometimes that works. Like if the king was on g5 and the rook couldn't escape. But yeah, here.
Yeah.
So the most forcing move, wouldn't it be rook to b4?
Well, okay, you play rook b4. I have many ways out of checking. Go here. I have 4 options.
Well,
you can play a move where I only have 1 option. So let's look at that one first.
well,
If you play
the forcing move of rook takes rook, it looks like the white king will be in the square and catch the black pawn.
Yeah, that's what Nimzovich thought too. He thought, this is just a draw. I'm gonna go catch this pawn. And okay, 1 against 2, but I have a passed pawn here. And you know, unless I make it a protected passed pawn, then how are you gonna do anything, right? But actually this is still winning for black. A5, e4. And the move here, this is the move that Nimzovich didn't see. Trick is we actually have to stop white from being able to do this. If white can play g3 and set up his pawns like that, then he's gonna be fine.
Wait, do you play f5 check
But we can play f5 check.
as a distraction? And if the king moves out of the way, then you can play f4 now?
And now, yeah, the king, it has to stay inside this square, so it can't leave that box, right? It can't take the pawn. So, but if you go here, now we play f4. And this is actually winning for black. You can't take the pawn still, maybe outside the square. And you have nothing better to do. You might as well go after this pawn.
And now since the pawns are split, black has time to take them.
Yeah. I mean, once again, you have nothing better to do than go after this pawn. But okay, I'm gonna take this, and I'm gonna take that. So, yeah. So actually, I think in this position, Nimzovich just resigned. He immediately realized what he had done. So I'm sure his heart must have sank. It's a terrible feeling to realize you made a blunder and you're losing. But yeah, king and pawn endgames, there's a lot of tricks like that. So sometimes even the position where it looks totally safe, you want to look for like you want to try and see things you wouldn't normally think of. So like f5 check, you wouldn't think of it because it just sacks the pawn. But okay, you kind of get into the habit for looking for little tricks like that, then you can spot a lot of things like this. Another good trick actually is, this is like a classic one, but this. Okay, the pieces don't really matter. Let's just say pieces are like this, whatever. So this is a classic trick also, where white thinks, all right, I'm going to play b4. And actually, I'm just going to move this king closer.
Hey, is Ryan here? I think this is all very similar to a game that I had with Ryan just last week.
Yeah, this is a classic blunder. This
Yeah,
B4.
part this.
He didn't.
Yeah, what is black player?
He didn't make the blunder, but it was out.
Isn't it just B5?
B5, yeah.
Yeah,
This is a move that's easy to forget about, and grandmasters have blundered, not in this exact position. You know, there could be other pieces on the board, but yeah, B5. And black is going to get a fast pawn. There's nothing white can do. If you take this, I take that. And my king is close enough to stop your A pawn. And if you take this, then I play A4. And you can't stop my A pawn. My king is close enough to stop all these. So yeah, that's the theme of king and pawn endgames. Try and look for things you wouldn't normally think about. Here you would think of B5, but yeah, that's actually the only winning move for black. If you don't do it now, then white will stop you sometime. All right, so let me actually close out of that, and I will share my screen again. So let's see. All right. I had one other endgame one, but I'm going to go fast forward to some more modern examples. So the other reasons, okay, so I think in both of those games, let me just start my screen share again. In both of those games, I would say the main reason for the blunder was just kind of not having a sense of danger about the position. You kind of, the Grandmaster thought, oh, it's just an easy draw and I can do anything, or oh, I can play any move. And when you're kind of in that mindset, you're not really thinking, you're not really trying to be careful and double checking your moves. You just kind of think, I can play whatever I want. However, the other reason for blunders is it can just be an idea that is very unusual or hard to find. It's like, it's not a typical pattern that you would see in like a tactics book, like a typical double attack that, you know, that is very thematic. Sometimes even grandmasters like Boris Ivkov can make a mistake even in the opening by just blundering like a very unusual tactic. So all right, this was a game that he played. All right, his opponent, Harold Lead, okay, Boris Ivkov, he lost his world championship match to Bobby Fischer in several years before this game was played. But okay, he's still a very strong player. And okay, his opponent is kind of not even in the same class as he is. And well, Spassky probably thought he was going to be able to win this game without too much difficulty. So maybe overconfidence was another thing also. So all right, well, his opponent goes for this kind of Vienna opening. So he's going to use his F pawn pretty early. It's not an opening that a lot of grandmasters play with white, but okay, a grandmaster playing black, when they see this opening, they think, all right, no, I want to try and win. So bishop c5. He knows he's going to push the F pawn, so the bishop is already here. d3, getting ready for f4. Knight c6. And we're almost halfway done with the game up until the blunder happens. So the blunder happens pretty quickly. So far it looks so good. f4. d6. Still normal. And now, all right, white goes after the bishop on c5. And I think this is still theory. I don't really know a lot of theory in this opening, but this is a typical idea, and this is a typical kind of setup for black to just develop the knights and play d6 and e5. And here, after knight a4, Spassky says, all right, I'm going to take on g1. And now your king is going to be stuck in the center. You won't be able to castle. And, okay, he even plays a little bit aggressively now. He plays knight g4. So going after this loose pawn in h2. So Spassky, you know, he's out to get his opponent. He's not backing away from trying to punish him. So g3. Spassky takes on f4. Now he plays knight takes h2. Now this is actually a blunder. And I'm sure white had kind of set up this trap, like the Nimzovich example. He obviously saw Spassky going after the h2 pawn. But actually, this move loses a piece by force.
Queen H5.
Take a guess.
Yeah, I heard a couple answers. Did everybody say Queen H5?
Yeah.
Yeah, Rook H1 doesn't really trap the knight because you can still run back. But yeah, Queen H5, oops. And, well, there's nothing you can do. You have to stop checkmate, and then I just take the knight. I mean, there's really, you can play a check, but I'll just take it. There's not really anything you can do. So, you know, Spassky, okay, what did he play? Queen F6, he took the knight, and all right, white went on to win. The game lasted for like 10 or 15 more moves, but it's not really super interesting. But yeah, here.
But Lev, what happened if the knight goes back after white moves the queen? What happened if the knight goes back to G4? It's defended by the bishop, right?
Instead of moving the queen?
No. After the queen moves to H5, the knight goes back to G4.
Ah, but you didn't stop white's bigger threat.
Checkmate.
Yeah, checkmate.
Yeah.
That was the threat of Queen H5, really. Yeah. It's a double attack. And okay, well, I'm sure like Spassky saw Queen H5 was a move, but I think maybe this backwards idea, maybe that he didn't see. But yeah, so this is like not really a super typical tactic. You know, I mean, Queen H5 double attacking something and something over here on this side of the board, that can happen. But it's pretty rare that you see Queen H5 double attacking the F pawn and a knight on H2. That's like that's I've never seen that happen again, except in this game. And there, probably overconfidence was part of it also. He's probably, you know, he's thinking, okay, I can beat this guy no matter what I do. And when you have that mindset, you're playing a little too carelessly. Maybe he was playing quickly also. Then yeah, that's how blunders like this can happen. So yeah, so far, Ken, we have overconfidence from you. We have what? We have not having a sense of danger, right? And time pressure, I think, is the other big one. So,
yeah, time pressure was in the first one I did.
Yeah, so time pressure, overconfidence, and not having a sense of danger, I would say those are probably the top 3 reasons for like, strong players making blunders.
Yeah, and you know, in one example you had, the 2 players really hated each other.
Oh, was that Nimzovich Tarish? Yeah, they did hate each other.
So neither one thought the other one could do anything right anyway.
They were both very okay. Tarish was very dogmatic in his like approach to chess. He was like, you know, there is a correct play, and you cannot deviate from this correct play, otherwise you'll be punished, kind of thing. And the way Nimzovich played, Nimzovich had a lot of like new hyper modern ideas that Tarish didn't agree with. So yeah, they didn't like each other very much. But,
yeah, there was also a story though with one grandmaster playing a fine game and being congratulated by Nimzovich, and he said, "Herr Nimzovich, you've not talked to me for these last 25 years. Why did you pick now?" And Nimzovich's answer was, "I thought you were a follower of Tarash. That's why I didn't talk to you for 25 years."
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, Nimzovich was an interesting character. I mean, there's some other funny stories about him also.
By the way, I found that game. It was Botvinnik Bronstein. It was Game 9 of the 1951 World Championship, and that one had a weird tactic. It had a rook trapped in a corner by a pawn, so that the pawn would take the rook the next turn and queen no matter what.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, maybe if we have time after my next examples, maybe I can quickly show that one also. But all right, so now okay, this one, all right, it's a GM against, I would say, more of an amateur player. His opponent isn't really, he's not in the same league as Spassky. But okay, and even in GM encounters where kind of overconfidence is not really a factor, we can still see some blunders happen because of just a very unusual pattern that you don't see very often. So okay, I'm sure Cliff and Ken have both seen this game before. This is like a very famous blunder by Karpov. And all right, once again, the opening starts off, you know, sort of normal. Knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, b6. The queen's Indian. Karpov liked playing this opening with black around this time. And all right, well, there's really nothing special happening in the opening. This is called the Trojan Variation. It looks kind of weird to just play this move on the side of the board. But actually, since a lot of times when white ever plays knight c3, black answers with bishop b4, at some point, players thought it was important enough in the whole tempo to stop bishop b4. So right, it's a valid idea. It's not just some random pawn move. So all right, bishop a6. Bishop b7 is also moved. Bishop a6 is also moved, just attacking the c pawn. And we're still in normal waters here. Queen c2, bishop comes back to b7. Knight c3, c5, e4, takes. Still fairly normal. Black plays knight c6, knight c6, and bishop c6. So, yeah, this is also probably a good example of not having a sense of danger. So, like this early in the game, Karpov is probably very familiar with this opening position. He's played this opening before, and I'm sure he was ready for various ideas that he has. Bishop b7 and castle, and get ready to play a d5 pawn break. Another idea is to play rook c8 with some plan to break with a6 and b5. So Karpov is very familiar with these positions. So, and all right, Larry Christensen, he just kind of keeps playing normal moves. Bishop f4, developing. All right, so now knight h5. This is it's a bit of a weird move to make. Usually, you don't want to put the knight on the side of the board like that. All right, it attacks the bishop, but the bishop just comes back to e3. And actually, in this position, this is where Karpov made his now famous blunder. And all right, I'm going to make the move, play bishop b6. And now, if you've seen this game already, don't say the answer. But yeah, if you guys were white actually can win here right away. Bishop d6 is like a double question mark move.
Queen d1.
Queen d1, yeah. Yeah, that's just a very simple double attack. There's nothing you can do to save both those pieces. Actually, Karpov just resigned after this. He's probably very disgusted with himself, didn't even want to continue. But yeah, okay, that's a very atypical tactical pattern. It's also a retreating move. Queen d1, that's definitely not the first move you would think of if you're playing black. You're probably expecting to, or bishop here, or g3 and bishop g2. That's what you would be expecting. You wouldn't be expecting queen d1. And okay, you can get a bit of a hint for when something might be going wrong though. Like the knight on h5 definitely shouldn't be very well placed, and it's not defended. That's also the important part. And the bishop on d6 is also not defended. Like if you have a good tactical radar and you're always keeping an eye on things that aren't defended, then that's how you can spot opportunities like this. When you just notice two things that aren't defended and you see if you can attack them, then yeah, Larry Christensen, he was paying attention. So Ken, you've seen that game before, right? Or was that new to you also?
I think Ken's muted.
Sorry. Yeah, I've definitely seen that before, Lev.
I think you probably taught this game before, showed it in camp.
Yeah, probably.
This is Karpov's this is one of his most famous blunders. There's also the game where he was playing white against Tony Miles, and Tony Miles played a6 on move 1, and he won. So that's another famous, things go bad for Karpov example. But yeah, see, even though Karpov at this time, he was one of the best players in the world. So even he, he is over 2,700 at this point. I think 1993 was the year he won the FIDE World Championship. So there was some split in the chess world, but he became the FIDE World Champion this year. But even that doesn't make him immune from playing blunders like this. Yeah, especially if you're not. It's a very unusual tactical pattern that you haven't seen before. Then sometimes stuff like this can happen. So, all right, let me see what the next example is. I think we have a few more minutes, so I think I have some examples from my own games too. So yeah, let's actually, I'll come back to this one if we have time. Okay, I'll do this one. So since I'm not a Grandmaster yet, I technically can't make Grandmaster Blunders. So I didn't show any blunders that I made, but I promise if I ever become a Grandmaster, then I will show my Grandmaster Blunders.
You're off the hook.
So, all right. So this was played in the last round of an open tournament a couple years back. And I think both me and Ivanov were tied for the lead. So okay, whoever won this game would basically win the tournament. And okay, well, just before going any further, who's better in this position? What do you guys think? Who's playing for the win?
It looks to me like black is better positioned, and that black also is up like a pawn, right? So I'd say black's trying to win here.
Black is up a pawn, yeah. So it should be no secret. Grandmasters like being up pawns. And yeah, here black has an extra pawn. Black also has some nice space on the queen side. And okay, this rook on b5 is a little bit awkward. I have a nice rook on a6, so I have a little bit of counterplay. And it's actually white to move here. I played rook e1, which sets up a very devious trap. So I should also add that Ivanov was in pretty bad time pressure at this point. So in fact, if any of you have seen Ivanov or have seen him play in a tournament, he is definitely, he gets into time pressure a lot, let's just say. And by this point, yeah, he was probably under a minute to make it to move 40. This was like a 40 moves in 2 hours kind of time control, and we're on move 29. So he was in pretty bad time pressure here. So what do you guys think my idea is? I actually have a threat.
Rook takes f6 and then f3.
Yeah, I'm threatening to, well, okay, you have to be able to be careful. If you play rook f6, and then gf, and then f3, black can actually save himself there.
Rook takes f6 and then bishop g7.
Or bishop g2?
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, that works. I meant bishop d7 to fork the two rooks, but yeah, that looks better.
Oh, bishop d7. Yeah, that is also a threat. So, yeah, rook takes f6 is the right idea, for sure. You remove one of the defenders in black's position. And after pawn takes, yeah, bishop d7. It would fork the two rooks, and okay, I mean, there, black can still bring his rook back with b to b8. So, like, let's just say it's hard to make a neutral move for black. But, in that position, after bishop d7 and rook back to b8, even there, if you take your rook back, okay, we just traded change, basically.
Yeah, but you take the rook and then you take on h5, and you're threatening a bunch of forks, aren't you?
Yes, so that's actually the biggest idea. And it takes h5. So here, yeah, if you play, let's say, it's hard to make a neutral move for black. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, let's say you play something like this. Actually, I think I can do this. I can just enter it. So now it's white. So yeah, this is a really neat tactic. After knight takes h5, there's no king g7, and knight takes f6. And okay, also bishop g2 I think is a threat also, and bishop d7. And I think you could play bishop d7 and then play knight h5 into the end here too.
Yeah, that was what I was saying.
Yeah, I think actually this is the way to do it actually. Yeah, and then here there's nothing black can do to defend, because even if you do this, I can still take the bishop. So okay, that's a long-winded way of saying that, yeah, white has a threat here. But okay, it's not like the most obvious tactic, because you have to go like a few moves to see that, okay, bishop b7, then rook b8. You have to calculate a little bit to get to the end there. And he played a very natural-looking move here, c4, which stops it takes h5 here, right? But actually here, okay, c4, that is the blunder. So The tactics will still work out here. You just have to kind of calculate it. You have to pick the right order of your moves.
Well, I think, you mind if I try and answer this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I think it might be work the same way, right? Because if you take on f6 and then gf and then you play bishop d7, bishop d7 here, right? Then in order for him to not lose a full rook, he has to move his rook to defend the other one, and then you can take one, and then it won't be defending h5 anymore, right?
Yeah, so actually this doesn't change the position at all.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like, it's a difficult blunder to see, because, well, it's an easy blunder to make, rather, because, like, you can see, he was probably calculating this. I'm sure he was not surprised by this move. It's a typical move that the Grandmaster would calculate. And he probably saw at the end, well, okay, my h-pawn is hanging, and so c4 makes a lot of sense, because it defends the h-pawn. But actually, it turns out that after rook f6, he actually didn't even take the rook. He played b3, which is a trickier move with some many threats. Because he saw that he can't take this. After bishop d7, there's really nothing you can do. If you move this rook to defend the other one, either e5 or b8, it doesn't really matter. I will still take, and then takes h5. So this move didn't really change anything about the position.
What if after bishop d7 he plays rook e5?
Yeah, and if you do this one, then I guess I'll take the rook. And if you take the bishop, then I take on e4.
Oh, the bishop.
And otherwise, yeah, you're a piece down here. So, and yeah, there's nothing else you can do. Otherwise, I just take one of these rooks, and I'm gonna be up a piece.
So what happened in the game?
So yeah, in the game he played b3, which, all right, he has a little bit of counterplay, but there are a few different ways to defuse this, and I just brought my rook back, and okay, I was up a piece, and eventually I converted here. So I think he can take on c2, or he played this. But yeah, I mean, here I already kind of had consolidated at this point. He doesn't really have any threats. With the bishop, we just trade rooks. And, there's actually, yeah, you have one pawn for the piece, but there's not really enough compensation, because all these are still weak. So yeah, okay, that would be a combination of time pressure. I think if he had more time, he would have, I'm sure, not blundered that. So I think if you just play, like, you could play rook b6, for example, and even just give this pawn away. And I could probably play rook here also. This would stop it. Because now, these pins don't really work, because I can always defend my bishop. And f3 doesn't work either. This one, I don't think we went through this line, but actually after f3, black can save himself.
Bishop c6?
Bishop c6, yeah. The bishop can just come back to defend the rook. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes you can make a blunder like that, where in one variation, you see that you have to defend something. And I've made this blunder too, where I'm calculating something and I see, oh, I have to defend this pawn. But then I forget when I'm making my move now that actually that doesn't matter. That actually, it doesn't matter that the pawn is defended now. It matters that the pawn is not defended here when bishop e7 happens. So, all right. Mike, how am I doing on time? Do I still have time for another example, do you think?
Okay, so we're at 3:30, so I think we have enough time.
Just try for one more, maybe. All right, so actually, yeah, I have a quick one. Also kind of funny. All right. This is, okay, this one, all right, it's a little famous, but hopefully, if you had already seen the Karpov game, then hopefully this one, I don't think is quite as famous as that. But okay, this is like one of Nigel Short's famous when things went wrong kind of game. So, all right, it's white to move here. And well, first of all here, who's playing for the win? I'll start by asking that again. Who's better here?
White because the outside pawn, right?
White. I'd say white.
Yeah, that's one reason. Another reason too.
Better pieces, more centralized king, maybe.
Yeah, that's the big one. More centralized king. If this king was, if the king were switched, this king was on d6, this king was back here, then that could be totally different. But yeah, here the super powerful king on king on 5, in combination with a fast pawn, mean white should be able to win this. But all right, what do you have to be worried about when your king is out in the center? Even in the endgame, what can happen?
Checkmate.
Yeah, sometimes you get checkmated. Yeah, the king is in the middle. Sometimes you can get checkmated. So it doesn't look like it's like hard to even see how it's possible for this king to be mated here. But all right, we'll see what happens. So you played bishop e3. Right, it's fine. You're gonna push the b pawn. It's not really anything black can do, because if you move this knight, then you're gonna let my king invade on d6. So you can't play this, for example. Or actually, let's just lose the piece. But yeah, I mean, there's not really much black can do. So he plays king f8. He's going to shuffle his king over. Here we go, b5, bishop b7, knight d5. So far, pretty normal. We're stopping the king from going in. We're blocking at the bishop. And white has a lot of ideas here that he can try. He can try bishop e4, then try to trade off the bishops. If we go into just a pure knight endgame, or even a pure king and pawn endgame, if we have the outside fast pawn, then this should be an easy win for white. And here, okay, black he played for his last trick. He plays f6 check. And here, Nigel Short found the worst move on the board.
No, not king e6.
So that is what he played. He played king e6. And yeah, if you haven't seen it already, well, black actually has mate in 1. So who sees the checkmate?
I fell into something just like this against Dale once.
Is it knight to g7?
Oh, that wouldn't be checkmate. I can go take your pawn or here.
No.
Or go here.
Bishop c8.
Bishop c8, yeah.
Oh,
another retreating move. Those are also sometimes hard to spot. But yeah, the king is just mated. All these squares, every single one is covered. So it's very, very unusual that you see a king get mated by 2 minor pieces on a pawn in the endgame. And I guess this knight is helping also. It takes a square away from the king. But there, okay, I would put that under like no sense of danger. Because here, I'm sure Nigel Short thought, oh, this should just be an easy win. In most cases, a GM wouldn't have much problem winning this endgame. They have super active king, outside passed pawn. Black is kind of just all scrunched back and defending. And, he may have even been like on autopilot here, just play moves and I'll win eventually. But yeah, f6, you think I just keep moving the king forward, but no, oops. Don't forget about checkmate. So, yeah, and actually here, what do you guys think about knight takes f6? So this is what black's idea was, knight takes f6. I'm sure that's what he was expecting. And is this winning for white or not?
Does black hold by taking on f6 and taking g2?
Yeah, so let's look at this here, right? Let's do a little bit of calculation here.
But doesn't kind of think that white would still might win because of bishop f5, and then you're just going to take the 2 pawns because they're on dark squares, right?
Yeah, you can play bishop f5 here. Yeah, bishop f5 is probably good.
And the bishops are the same color.
I'm going to take that. The only thing you have to be careful of, though, is this pawn is not on the same color. It's not the right color for that bishop.
Oh, okay.
So if you let me sacrifice my bishop for this pawn, then even if you win both of these, that may not be a trivial win. That may not be super easy.
Right.
But actually here, okay, we play b6, right? Then you can't take this because I played b7. So black has to try Black now has to try his only move here. He has to try and make it past pawn somehow, right? How does he do that?
G4.
G4, that's what he has to try. So we take it. H3, right? And now, okay. Is white fast enough to win the bishop and stop the pawn? That's the question to answer.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because he promotes with mate.
Yep, because you promote with checkmate. That's the important one. So bishop a6 here, here. And if you sack, then my bishop stops. And I don't have the corner pawns. The right. Well, doesn't matter what the color of the queening square is, as long as it's not the corner. And if you queen, I promote to a rook for the checkmate.
Looks like a study a little bit.
The queen is a heavier piece, so it's less work to promote to a rook. That's why it's more accurate. All right, so yeah, I think we've just about wrapped up. I think.
Lev, could you go back before bishop h6? Oh, okay, you're
Oh, hold on, yeah. Hold on. Here, b6.
Yeah, you played g4, right, for black?
Yeah.
And white takes it?
Mm-hmm.
Does white have enough time to push the g pawn?
Oh, you mean this way?
Yeah.
So h3, g5. It looks like it. Although, maybe I will play this to stop you.
Well, then that would push the b.
Yeah, this is winning also. And then you, as long as you promote with the check. So here you'll promote check.
Yeah, that's mate. I mean,
and you'll mate. Yeah, so actually white has more than one way to win there.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. So yeah, I guess, you know, to wrap up, I think we gave some examples of each one, but the three main reasons I can think of for making blunders, at least at this level, at the GM level, definitely overconfidence can be one, time pressure, another big one, and not having a sense of danger. So like here in the end game, you're not thinking about getting checkmated, so it's easy to forget. And you know, in a position where you think any move is fine, it's easy to just not be careful and not double check your moves. So, but bottom line, yeah, even grandmasters can make blunders, right? So nobody forget that. In fact, that game against Alexander Ivanov, I was completely losing earlier in the game. Like he was winning out of the opening, so I played the opening pretty badly, and he was like crushing me. Then I managed to escape to a pawn down endgame, and he made a blunder. So it's happened to me too, where I've been winning and I blunder and lose.
Happens to me all the time, Lev.
All right, Lev, so do you want to show us the Knights tour, or you want to do that next week?
Mike, what's your decision? You're the referee here.
Well, I think by popular demand, the vote is today, if you're up to it.
Oh, okay. So, well, who is going to be checking me? So, Ken, do you have a chess base board, right?
Sure.
So, because otherwise I'll just say random squares and you guys know. Maybe you won't remember. I've done it before.
Erase some of my open windows here.
Although I haven't practiced it in the last few weeks, so I think I remember how to do it.
What is the Knight's tour?
So basically, I'm going to start on a square, and I'm going to visit every square on the chessboard with a knight exactly once. So I can't
in your head?
I can't in my head, yeah. I can't go to any square twice, and I just have to visit every square on the chessboard once.
So, Ken, do you want to share your screen while Lev calls it off? Is that how we'll do it? Or?
Actually, I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out
how should we do it?
Here. So it should be a position set up with a clear board, Lev?
Yeah, so I guess I don't know if you know how to make like highlight squares.
Well, that's what I was going to ask about next.
So I think if you hold down, so when you have a board ready.
Okay, now when I clear the board here though, it doesn't let me go back on the regular Fritz. So do I have to do this on ChessBase Reader?
Do you have ChessBase Reader?
Yeah.
Yeah, that should work.
Okay, so let's try that. Okay, so from ChessBase, no, wait a minute. Oh, mine just left. Okay, let me close out Fritz too. All right, so if I go to ChessBase Reader, try to open it up. And there's a way that I could just highlight each square?
So yeah, first just set up like a blank board. I think in ChessBase you should be able to do that.
Yeah, because Fritz hated that idea.
Yeah, I don't think Fritz lets you do that.
All right, so I go to, let's see, home, board, new game, position setup, your board. Okay. All right. Okay, so I got a clear board, and now what do I do to highlight?
So do you want to share your screen first?
Sure, I could share it. If the thing comes, if Zoom comes back on to let me. Where's my Zoom window? Amazing. Okay. Yeah, my Zoom window's gone now. As far as, I mean, you guys can still see me, I think, but I can't get to the share screen anymore.
What do you mean your Zoom window is?
Let's see. Okay. Exit, minimize video. Now I can share screen. But I lost my board. Okay. So. Okay. How do I get view? Wow, this is a real pain for me. All right, so let's just say I get to this. And now I want to do new position setup. Clear. Yeah, check. That thing's not really doing me a lot of good. Okay, so Fritz is gone. And where's Reader?
Hey, Ken, would it help if you kind of log out and then re-log into Zoom, the Zoom meeting?
I don't know what I did on Zoom.
So can you like see?
Hey, I can see everybody here. Now I'm going to, here's my ChessBase Reader. Okay, so where do I go from here, Lev?
So click on board, yeah.
Right, new game, position setup, right?
Yeah. So now, no, just hit OK. Yeah, it's already clear board.
So, yes, I want to proceed. Okay.
Yeah. So now, okay, it should be like go to the bottom of your screen where you have like you can click what to open, the very bottom. We can't see that screen anymore actually.
You can't see what screen anymore?
Like we can see the ChessBase home screen, but we can't see the board anymore.
You can't see the board.
So yeah, can you go back to the Zoom meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So you want me to stop sharing then?
So yes, you have to stop sharing, and then you'll have to share again.
Okay. So
when you hit share screen and you have the option of what to choose, then find the empty board that you
I'll pop you out again. Okay. So share screen. And now I go back to board. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes. So if you hold down Alt and then right click on a square, you should be able to highlight it.
Okay.
So try that and see if it works.
Alt and right click.
And then right click.
Okay. And Alt and right click. Okay, yeah.
Oh, do you have a mouse, or are you doing this like?
I'm doing it without a mouse.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. So then, okay, I think if you just make a left click like outside the board somewhere, like left click on the part on the brown part, like in the background there, and then it gets rid of it.
And then it erases. Okay.
Oh, right.
All right.
So pick a square. Where should I start?
Well, Jim's the one who wants it, so Jim should pick the square.
All right, Lev, let's try, well, something explosive. Let's try C4.
C4, all right, very explosive. So, all right, hold on. I have to find where my route there goes. So actually, hold on. No promises I'll actually be able to do it because I haven't practiced it in a while. But C4. Yeah, where do I go from C4? All right, you know what, Jim? Pick a. Let's do C5 instead. Let's do C5.
All right, that's nearly explosive.
I don't remember where I go from C4, but I know from C5. All right.
Well, isn't C5 the same as C4 except in turned around?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's the Sicilian, Jim, the explosive Sicilian. All right, so are you ready, Ken?
Go ahead. Yeah, I highlighted the square, right?
So C5, all right. So
Sure.
so I'm going from C5 to B7.
D7.
B is in boy, 7.
Oh, B7. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so I'll go for this again. B7. Yep.
All right. Knight D8.
Okay.
Knight F7.
Everybody can see this, right?
Yes.
Knight H8. Okay.
Yeah.
Knight G6. All set?
Got it.
Just let me know like when you, because I'm not looking. So
Oh, okay. Yes, it's all set. Set.
sorry. Knight H8, Knight G6, Knight H4.
Got it.
Knight G2.
Okay.
Knight E1.
Yep.
Knight D3.
Okay.
Knight F4.
Got it.
Knight E6.
Okay.
Knight D4.
Okay.
Knight F5.
Yep.
Knight D6.
Knight where?
From F5 to D6.
D6. Okay. Yep.
So Knight F6. Knight C4. Ah, now I remember. Okay, Knight C4.
Okay.
All right, so from C4, now Knight E5.
Okay.
Knight C6.
Yep.
Knight A5.
Okay.
Knight B3.
Got it.
Knight A1.
Okay.
Knight C2.
Yep.
Knight E3.
Okay.
Knight G4.
Got it.
Knight H6.
Yep.
Knight G8.
Okay.
E7.
Yep.
Knight C8.
You on here? Okay.
Knight A7.
Yep.
Knight B5.
Yep.
Knight A3.
Okay.
Knight B1.
Got it.
Knight D2.
Yep.
Knight F1.
Okay.
Knight H2.
Yep.
Knight F3.
Sure.
Knight G5.
Okay.
Knight H7.
Yep.
Knight F8.
Okay.
Knight D7.
Yep.
Knight B8.
Yep.
Knight A6.
Okay.
Knight B4.
Yeah.
Knight A2.
Okay.
Knight C1.
Yeah.
Knight E2.
Okay.
Knight G1.
Yep.
Knight H3.
Okay.
Knight F2.
Yep.
Knight H1.
Yep.
Knight G3.
Got it.
All right, hold on. Knight H5. Right?
H5. Okay.
Knight H5. Knight G7.
Yep.
Knight E8.
Yep.
Knight C7.
Okay.
Knight A8.
Yep.
Knight B6.
Yep.
Knight A4.
Okay.
Knight B2.
Yep.
Knight D1.
Got it.
Knight C3.
Yep.
Knight D5.
Okay.
Knight F6.
Yep.
Knight E4.
Yep.
Congratulations. Good job, Lev.
And then you started on C5. So you
I started on C5. Yeah, I didn't remember after C4 where I go, but C5 I remember.
Yeah, good stuff.
Nice job, Lev.
That was great, Lev.
Thanks for doing that.
So, yeah, I haven't practiced that in a couple weeks, but yeah. I think I'm able to do it from any square, but it's just the same route, so you can just, like, it goes in a circle, so I can do it from any square, it's the same route.
All right, good job. Thanks.
All right, I will stop my screen sharing.
So,
if anybody likes to see green.
okay, so, yeah, I guess, Mike, do you have any updates you want to, anything you want to say about Chess Center opening up, anything along those lines?
Sure. Thanks, Lev. Well, first, I just want to say thanks, Ken and Lev, for doing this. This is just, great. Really, and nice to see everybody here. It's been really awesome to see you guys do this. As far as the Chess Center, I think the 29th, we're going to open for camp. And on the 1st, on Wednesday, we're going to open Wednesday for actual chess in person. And we're going to be putting out a newsletter and a post to the website. And to make it safe, we'll have some precautions, but I think it'll be really nice to have people get back together. Thanks, Lev.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Any questions from anybody about it? Okay.
Mike, you did get the message that WinTD is back up on the computer, right?
Yes, I did. That's great.
Okay, yeah, Dave didn't know he'd done that.
And I guess we'll have to, for Swiss Sys, we don't really need that for a while anyway, but.
Right, but we do eventually probably want to get up there.
Yeah. Great.
You probably have the number written down somewhere.
Yeah, we'll have to find it. It used to be on the wall.
They redid everything with that too. There's a bulletin board up there now.
Oh, okay. Cool. So, Lev, do you think you'll be back to be playing on site?
So, you mean when the Chess Center opens?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll have to see when I'll be available. Probably not the first Wednesday, but maybe some. I would like to go back on a Wednesday at least once or twice. So.
That'd be great. And I think Ken, is the picnic we set is on the 8th?
It's on the 8th, yeah.
So what we usually do for that is we have the picnic, of course, the Chess Center puts that on, and we also have Wednesday night chess, so people can do either or both. you know, and then
As of right now, we have 2 lodges for the picnic. If you've gone there before, you'll note there's a West Lodge and an East Lodge. One year, Ron had a mistake or had made a mistake and reserved both lodges. So I don't think we realized that we had both lodges at one point, but this year we do have both lodges because the county says you're only allowed to have 25 at a gathering per lodge. So the way around that was, oh, we'll get 2 lodges and then we can have 50 people.
Where the picnic will be?
Mendon
What
Pond.
lodge? I'm sorry?
Mendon Ponds Park, Marcelo.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And another thing coming up, once we get rolling with Wednesdays, Lev will work together. We'll figure out with Ken, and we'll figure out when we could do the simul.
Yeah. So, I mean, did you have a ballpark, like what month you were thinking to do that in?
Let's see, early August.
Because the only thing I have, I may be traveling. I may not be back until late August.
Okay.
But I'm not sure about my travel plans yet. So
yeah, that's fine. We can keep it kind of tentative, and we can really, probably with like 2 weeks or 10 days advance notice is probably good enough to get the word out.
Okay. Yeah. So
When does
probably, I would say late August or maybe early September.
Okay.
When does your semester start?
What's that?
Your semester starts is in August or September?
So my semester actually starts August 19th. So they made it start early. They're gonna stop before Thanksgiving. So the last day of classes is the week before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And then all the final exams after that will be done remotely. So
okay.
They've already made a decision there.
Sounds good. All right.
Okay. Well, thanks for showing up, everybody.
Yeah, I'm
Thank
looking
you
forward.
guys. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're looking forward to reopening and seeing you guys again.
Yeah, it'll be good, TJ.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Thanks,
Ken.
Ken. Thanks, Lev.
Yeah, Ken.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Yeah, what, Lev?
So no, I just wanted to ask: is this going to be the last one that we're doing, or were we planning to do another one next week? I wasn't sure.
I think this will be it for me.
This will be the last one. Okay.
Yeah, because I've got to do a couple things for camp stuff. So it's a little late for me to get in shape for camp, but you know, start riding a bicycle or something.
It's been a good run here. We kept this going for what, like 4 or 5 weeks. So
yeah.
Yeah, it was a great idea, Lev, to do this, and thanks for helping to make it happen. You know, and all the work you did, and Ken and Cliff as well. You know, putting these lessons together. And although we hope that we don't have like another resurgence of the COVID, if it should happen, we'll try to bring this back. But hopefully we'll be safe and these things won't happen. So.
Agreed.
All right.
sounds good, Mike.
Yeah. So, bye everybody.